call this workshop of the Pearson County Public Schools to order. Welcome to everyone, and if you please join me in a moment of silence. All right, thank you. Ms. Worsing, would you care to join us to lead us in pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any amendments, additions, or is there a motion to adopt the proposed agenda?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Allen and seconded by Ms. Maxwell to approve the proposed agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. And it passes. Okay. We do have a couple of one correction or a couple of corrections on the meeting calendar for this calendar year. I hope everyone has had a chance to look it over. And is there a motion to approve or to change, to amend?
Madam Chair, just didn't know if Dr. Armstrong had any commentary he'd like to add about those changes to the benefit of the public.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. We omitted one of our budget workshops, so we were on a slightly 1 week accelerated schedule for the budget presentation. So this will add one additional workshop, God willing, next Tuesday, depending on the weather, and then with a budget presentation to you on February 3rd. The other change we made was to move the February 3rd budget presentation to this room. Also note that we added the March 17th new date for the Board of Supervisors and School Board joint work session. That'll be 6 o'clock. Otherwise, the calendar is intact. Just have to make those few changes.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the budget calendar as stated.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Maxwell and seconded by Ms. Worsing to approve the amended calendar year 2026 meeting calendar as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Okay, it passes. So now we have a new meeting calendar. And I believe last week we failed to, we voted on Ms. Demetra Harris as the FOIA officer, but it wasn't in the agenda, or it wasn't on the agenda, so let's just tidy that up. Do I have a motion to approve Ms. Demetra Harris as the Deputy School Board Clerk, Deputy FOIA Officer?
Madam Chair, sorry, one point of clarification. Is Deputy Clerk and FOIA Officer, is she Deputy Clerk and Deputy FOIA Officer, or are there 2 FOIA officers? I think FOIA Officer.
We can go with FOIA
Okay,
Officer,
great.
yes.
I'll make
Okay.
sure.
Okay. So let me ask for that motion again. Do I have a motion to appoint Demetra Harris as the Deputy School Board Clerk and the FOIA and a FOIA Officer, as recommended by. Your second? Okay. It has been moved by Karen Worsing and seconded by Ellen Robinson to approve the appointment of Ms. Demetra Harris as the Deputy School Board Clerk and a FOIA officer for the division. All those in favor, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, we're official with that now. And now we are to the budget workshop.
Wonderful. Madam Chair, board members, welcome back. We have been busy at work refining numbers, and just to be completely transparent, Stephanie and I, when we worked through this presentation, I went back to live stream to make sure that we were accounting for all the questions you all had during last week's meeting. We're doing our best to really zone in and drill down on some of those questions around different positions we discussed and some of the bigger pieces that we're going to have to manage around health insurance premiums and salaries. So I want tonight to be very conversational. We're in this room all seated, and please interrupt me at any time, and we'll get right into it. Just an update, we are still awaiting the county transfer. I've been in touch with Dr. Rayleigh. He's still continuing to do the work on his end, so we will operate under certain assumptions, but again, that is still in progress, and we are, again, appreciate his very keen attention to detail in all of this and his desire just to be cautious before we are given the numbers. So we will await that, but we are still budgeting with an assumption of a 3% across the board raise as we go through these numbers. Ms. Weish has updated some of what you all saw just with our revenue projected changes based on some information we've received even since last week. Ms. Weish, anything in particular on that slide that you wanted to highlight?
I think just pointing out that last year we had uncertainty about ACA tuition, and we took that out of our budget, and now we know more about how those tuition rates are being charged. So we are adding back not only the revenue from student ACA tuition costs, but the expense of having to pay for those, to JSARD loans as well. So that's the biggest change. We are also phasing out of county tuition or enrollment for, non-employees of Goochland County Schools and Goochland County government. And so we're seeing that decrease in enrollment, so lower tuition fees coming in.
Their policy still allows for non-residents to apply, but we have prioritized the employee applicant in that non-resident tuition.
I think the only other thing with our local revenue is we're receiving fewer slots for our project return program that supports our alt ed. And I think Sarah could speak to this as well, but I think it's based on our needs. And I believe those slots went from like 17 to like 4.
It's a regional alternative education program, right?
Right. So anything you want to add there?
No, and I can look into that a little bit more. That could have been kind of cut before it came to us, before there was an express need. I just had to think about it.
Okay. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, really the major changes here are just to our local revenue that are kind of collapsed into the items that I just mentioned.
But before the county transfer, when we look at those revenue funds from the state and local revenue, we're sitting about 445, very similar to what we looked at last week. And then, change the title on that slide, sorry, but well, that's good. When we're looking at the difference in funds and our baseline right now, we would be starting before the county transfer at about $1.268 million. And so we'll go through this and walk through some of those pain points and opportunity points that we want to dig in further. Considerations when we look at salary and benefits continue to be remaining attractive in our region with market competitive salaries, ensuring that our benefits also remain attractive and competitive, and continue to evaluate all dimensions of the employee experience. I know we talked over the years about childcare for employees and things like non-resident tuition for our employees. These are dimensions of the employee experience and make our division special and making sure we honor that. Small class sizes. So that's all part of our recruitment and retention plan. So we just want to keep that forefront as we move forward and discuss our salary and benefits. I think the big piece in that is going to be health insurance. And, as an aside, I had my staff advisory today before we walked in at about 3:45 and before I went over to the county admin building and did discuss this with that group of staff about some of the proposals that we're going to get to you today that we've discussed about sharing some of that cost increase. So I know there's a lot going on in these slides, so I will walk through the highlights. The first slide, this is for context. I think one thing that's unique about Goochland is that we are not lockstep in our premiums with the county. Most counties, you'll see in the next slide, they're going to have the same premiums for their school employees and for their county employees. It's not better or worse or indifferent. It's just that is just the way that we have traditionally operated in Goochland. I think that difference between the county premiums and the school's premiums has actually shrunk over the years, but you still see some variation there across tiers. And I just wanted to bring your attention to that because I know that's been part of the discussion too. Is do we want to, as we consider how do we handle any increase, do we want to stay getting closer to how the county operates? But remember, they have far fewer employees. The calculus is a little bit different, I think, for the county than it's going to be for us. So that is simply for your awareness.
Do we have any insight as to why, when the product benefits in this example are on par, why there are differences in the premium splits there? Is that just decisions the individual boards have made over the years about cost sharing?
And they have traditionally been 250 heavy. They have historically had more employees in that KA 250 plan. I think that's shrunk a bit.
I think their workforce was older, let's say 5 to 10 years ago, and that's changing as they are hiring younger employees as well. Through education, you can kind of sway people into that high deductible plan over time. I think that there were some pretty embedded, practices of the county absorbing some of these increases over the years. But I know their board has become more palatable to sharing, those increases as our board has been. So, but there was such a disparity for a long time that it's taken a while. We've gotten closer, but when they prioritize paying for that health insurance cost, we may be over here prioritizing, a teacher or something that benefits our students. And we have to weigh those priorities.
And this didn't, I will tell you, the teachers who I spoke to today, I showed the slide, and it didn't really raise any eyebrows. I think, it's negligible. But I did want to put that out there for you all, just to thank you.
For clarification, said that the premiums are different, but the total premiums, according to this, is the
Sorry,
same.
yes, I'm sorry, the
It's
share, the
employee.
employer
Okay.
and employee share, yes, and I'll be clear in my verbiage moving forward.
Okay.
This does get very scientific. Next slide, I know, a very busy slide again, but I want to direct your attention to the green cells. And what I'm doing in the green cell is highlighting the employee out-of-pocket costs for the mid-level plan, employee plus children, across all these school divisions: Goochland, Chesterfield, Hanover, and Rico, Powhatan, Richmond City, Louisa, which represents most of our key competitors when we're looking at hiring. And you can see that Chesterfield has a lower overall premium, and they pass on about $325 of that to their employee who's on that tier. Hanover, which is lower than us, right? Our employees are going to be paying out of pocket $585 a month. Chesterfield $325. And in Hanover, same plan, you're paying over $800 out of pocket per month. Go down to Rico, slightly lower than us, $472. Powhatan significantly higher at $725. They're local choice too. They're on the same exact network that we are on in administering their health benefits. Richmond City $432, and then Louisa close to $900 a month out of pocket.
Do we get any benefit for if we
We get a $400 discount if it's for family coverage and a $300 for a spouse. And employee.
So that's another recruitment incentive too.
But when I look at this chart, it looks like only Powhatan and Louisa have the exact same product, the Key Advantage 500.
Right.
And so I'd love some, I mean, are we looking at red apples and green apples, or are we looking at apples, oranges, and bananas?
We made this, I like that. This is a red apple, green apple comparison.
Okay.
It's hard. Chesterfield, Hanover, and Henrico are all self-insured. And Powhatan, Louisa, Gooch, and several other school districts all choice. So that is a much easier comparison, but these plans were chosen purposely because they match in terms of, yes, your
Product mix.
And I had, the slides included kind of the same things that you saw in that last slide with the deductible out of the pocket. I did take it out just for simplicity here, but they are comparable.
I'll just add to that, our benefits consultant that helped us pull these numbers together did, for the plans that don't include dental, where it's not embedded, he did add their dental cost in to the total cost, so it would be more comparative when you're looking at that.
Because when an employee goes in their health plan, dental is included on that. You're not paying an additional premium for dental, whereas if you're in Henrico, you do pay a separate premium for your dental than you do for your health.
Henrico and Richmond, they'll have a much higher employee number, so they get a better deal per employee.
Just for 60,000 students, Henrico 50. It does.
Self-funded was very different
It's
than,
very different.
yeah.
And there are some small divisions that self-fund. I mean, we toyed with the idea here, but it never really works out. The bottom line, I think. But I figure, so I think you're gonna have a good effect. I haven't told it. So there's your comparison, and I think this was responsive to the question we had last week about, okay, can we kind of stack these up and see where we stand? I think we're competitive. That's clear, and I think, again, the teachers, I showed this too, I got a lot of head shaking too, and I think they appreciate that. And I told them, I said, which is why, we feel we've got an opportunity here to ensure that we're meeting a lot of the needs that we have when it comes to class size, when it comes to positions, while still keeping your premiums reasonable. Even if it were to go up, it's not like you're going to be seeing double the premium. So we developed 3 proposals here, but again, if anyone on the board thinks, you know what, I got a better idea about this, I want you to please speak up, and we can take that and absorb it. Proposal 1, which is really the easy one, is just, okay, we split everybody, whether you're on the 250 plan, the 500 plan, the 100 plan, whatever that premium increase is, the school division is going to pick up half, and you're going to pick up half of the premium. There's no real strategy, right? It's just like we're going to split it down the middle. That would cost our division $400,000, or $400,000.
But it would save $400,000.
I'm sorry.
But it would save $400,000.
It would save $100,000. It would. I'm sorry, that's the one piece here. It's going to cost us about $518,000 if we absorb all of that increase.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I should have led with that. Okay. So we split it evenly, and we're saving $100,000.
I need some help with that math.
That's Zoe.
That was my fault.
Because 518,000 divided by 2 is 259,000?
No, so you have to look at where your enrollment is. And so if I have somebody in a high deductible plan who's an employee only, they don't pay anything in the plan. So, if we absorb it all, it's just distributed.
I got it.
Differently.
Squeeze it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could explain that.
Ah, that third grade math came back.
Proposal 2 is the one that my attention goes to. And if you made me pick one of the 3, I'd probably pick this one. 250 is the most generous plan. And we half of that increase. So if premium goes up, $50 a month, and I'm gonna take on $25 and employees will take on 25. If on the 500 plan, we as GCPS are gonna absorb 75, 3/4. So, it goes up $100 a month, we're gonna take 75 and you're gonna pick up 25 out of pocket as the employee. And if you're high deductible, you're gonna stay whole because we want to incentivize folks. And I will say that I had a teacher preaching the good word about high deductible on my call and staff advisory about tax benefits, HSA, and but it is, it's risky. I had a teacher ask if you have prescriptions, and I'm like, I can't. I'm not the health advisor, but we can get you information. So we've kept that role. That would cost us about $365,000. So we're saving close to $150K, and now we're talking about, a position and a half. Third proposal you have there would pass on a little bit more to 1,500 folks. We would pick up 25%, employer would pick up 75%, 500, we would split that halfway. And that would cost us $227,000. So some significant savings there too. And I think if this is, if we walk out here tonight and we want more, thinking about next week stuff, maybe we kind of give you like a real-time example. If I'm an employee, this is my paycheck, and we go with monthlies, what's it going to look like? Like this is the premium, I'm going to add this much, this many dollars. And that'd be good for you, good for us to hear about it. But my first kind of reaction is I'm looking for us to think, okay, I think our employees would be able to handle that, and I think it would be just a fair way to do it. But I want to hear from you all.
Well, I've never had a job where I didn't have to share the thing. And I would always have to share the increase as well. So I'm okay with the sharing. But when is open enrollment?
It's, I think it's mid-April to late April was what it was last year, but yes, towards the end of April and first of May.
Okay, so there would be plenty of time for them to figure out which plan they want to go on, like if we're in proposal 2.
Right.
Do you want to go to HDH?
I'm not saying you have a choice, right? And if
Right.
I can absorb that increase, then I can profit.
Right.
We should be getting solid data by the 1st of February. So cross our fingers that this doesn't increase, to more like a 12%. Maybe it goes down, I'm not sure, but, and that cost sharing proposal number 2, our 500 employees would range from $72 per employee only to $640 per family.
Overall premium.
That would be their share.
Their share.
Yeah, their share.
Yeah, sorry.
And that also kind of keeps the 250 plan, no premium exceeds $1,000, which you could see in some of our other school divisions. That family cost, even for the 500 plan, is over
You look at
$1,000.
Hanover, your family employee costs $1,200 with 500, which means that anyone who's on 250 is probably. Something not really against that. I'm sorry.
For the 500 plan, we would go from 52 to 72,
$20 more.
and then from 328 to 365,
So roughly $30.
and then from 585 to 640.
Okay. So
$60.
All,
Not just
just which?
a high deductible plan.
And the division has historically incentivized that by contributing 100. That's where the orthodontics, like, the lineage is that's how it uses.
Is there a reason the 2 Key Advantage plans don't have an HSA rider?
I don't think they can have it. The way the plan's designed, you have to have a certain deductible, and out-of-pocket maximums and all that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure it's structured specifically, so that it can have the HSA component, but the others are not.
Employees, if they don't have an HSA, they can have the FSA.
FSA.
Yes.
Sure.
Which, no matter what plan you are, doesn't have the same tax value that HSA does.
Years have we gone without any increase?
So we had no increase last year, and then we had, a little over.
But none of those were passed along to
Yeah,
employees.
they were passed. We didn't pass it along that year, that was the year that the county did. And previous to that, we had done, a pretty significant cost sharing with employees, I believe in.
Almost every year.
Maybe as data comes in from the benefit consultant, we have a proposal number 4 that splits us by thirds. So we're a third, 2/3, and then 100%. Just again, trying to dollar save here, tweaking
There's
the buttons and those.
sometimes when you hear I'm spending, $20 a month versus 28, I don't know, there's something you just, I know it's not much, but if you're.
But when we aggregate it across 450 employees, I just would like to see the differences.
Or would you say you're in favor of continuing with the high deductible plan by not increasing that at all, or? Great. Awesome.
What's the deductible?
5,000,
So, yes, well,
Should be 6,000 or more.
the annual deductible, is $3,200 for an employee or $6,400 for a family. Maximum out of, pocket is, $5,000 and $10,000.
I don't think we had that tonight. No.
I think you just gave the.
Key Advantage 500.
yeah.
The, total premium for the or the high deductible right now, what's it currently, is $656 compared to $807 for the 250 and $900 for the 250. I'm sorry, $807 for the 500, $900 for the 250.
Been given back 105 of it.
Yeah, we kind of always, it doesn't always add up equally today, but historically, we have tried to match the employer cost for all 3 plans. And we kind of philosophically got away from that a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, it's like there must be real incentive, more exposure for the policyholder, right? If you're gonna put the money into a plan, you might as well put it into a richer plan with better benefits.
Yeah, unless you don't do the tax.
Absolutely tax strategy, you're young, healthy, don't ever see the doctor, that kind of thing. Those kids do. Not every employee is on the family plan.
As long as you all are comfortable with continuing to work to strategically share this increase. I don't hear anyone saying, no, we, all this, and that's, I think right now, the priorities in this insert here on local transfer, I would like to say, to make sure we.
Well, and you started the presentation with a proposed 3% increase across the board. So that's great. That then also needs to have some, burden of sharing and the cost of the insurance. Because the school division can't control the premium increase.
Same thing you saw last week, our salary comparisons, just did want to highlight this and put into a cleaner table for you here. I was working on this while watching that great football game last night, trying to add some nice colors for you. And then in Region 1, among those 14 divisions, just wanted to reiterate that we still plan to think about that at 3%, and where it lands also among our competitors in the region, from what we're hearing, I think it will still keep us. So let's talk about the specific employee group recommendations, and these were the recommendations from Evergreen. The head custodians moving in from one salary scale up. Talked about the driver scales, and I'm going to talk about that more with the wait time as well, incorporated in that. And then I know one area of conversation, what knobs can we turn, should we turn around some of the administrative scales? So got some more information about that. And when we go through these comparisons, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here.
Sorry, Dr. Armstrong. I just wanted to clarify on the drivers increased scales by additional 3%. So drivers would be included under the proposed 3% increase for everybody, plus another 3.
That would give us that $25 an hour minimum, which is where it seems to be where the market's really heading right now.
And the wait time at the $25 rate. And that the total cost for the second 3% of the wait time is $50,000.
Actually, it'd be $65,000 for wait time. That's just for the scale.
Very good.
That was the upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've got that noted.
Just want to make sure I'm tracking.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, please stop me. Just rules of the game here, just know that when we talk about the administrative positions, especially the comparison, when we look at bigger divisions. Bigger divisions might have 10 different people doing this one function. We did look at the hourly rates on these just to make the comparison clear. Our information for these positions for 9 of the 15 Region 1 divisions that included us, Chesterfield, Maryland, right about Harrisburg, Plain Rights. General market snapshot, not a precise benchmark, and this doesn't include any of the benefits or stipends or anything else. Top box there, that's what I just mentioned, Ms. Allen. Currently, our driver minimum is $21.97, maximum $33.98. That puts us a bit out of those 10 divisions. And while you're like, oh, that's pretty good. When it comes to getting driver job, we've got that slight change between fifth and third and $22 an hour versus 25 to make a big difference. So the recommendation that we have from Evergreen is again to add that additional 3% in addition to the cost of living increase. And then add the pay time or the wait time at the regular rate, which would give us a total price tag of $65,000 for our transportation.
Now that we have staggered start times at our schools, how many of our drivers are doing double runs? Ballpark, 10%, 50%, 100%?
So we have 15 full-time drivers that are paid for 6-hour contracts. Not so much double runs, but folks that pick up extra duties, such as running a shuttle back and forth from the high school to the workforce development center. Use the right terminology. And a lot of them are driving routes now that, our kind of demographics are spread out a little bit further with the, new GES. Some of them are driving over 4-hour contracts and being paid supplemental pay for that. But most of the double runs are part of that 6-hour contract, so not really 4-hour drivers doubling up on anything, but utilizing those full-time drivers to do those double routes. 15 currently.
A pool of 60?
I think I have to go back and look. I think we have 45 total drivers right now.
So a third.
That's a good question. I can get more information.
And help me, those full-time drivers, of course, would have the full complement of benefits as well.
They are covered under our
Right.
VRS plan.
And so 45 drivers and then 3 or 4 people, actually probably 5 or 6 people that work in the bus maintenance and administration services.
They would be on a different scale.
Different scale altogether, but the total bus services is about 50 people. Okay.
Yeah, the FTE, which is not necessarily people, I think is right at about 32. But yeah, there's, obviously 0.5 and 0.75 employees in that number.
Right,
So,
humans. Okay.
yeah.
Are most of the drivers local, or do you have any?
I assume the vast majority of our drivers follow.
Good. They need to know our crooked little road.
They do. I think that's been kind of a challenge too with recruitment is most of our drivers have some connection to this community or this division, which is great. It makes them amazing drivers, but then when you try to get folks who want to come from neighboring divisions, probably have most of your drivers are people who live in the community who have kids in school and that. It's pretty typical.
So that would almost be, as we think about, and I'm not opposing the compensation changes for our drivers, but it's unlikely that someone would go from Goochland to Louisa to drive a school bus, because now I've got fuel costs, I've got time,
Yeah.
I don't know their community.
Yeah, it's a real complicated calculus with transportation.
It's okay, and again, I'm not opposing the increase. I would expect that our drivers come from our community and would stay in our community, and maybe there's opportunity to reward that.
We even have some civil engineers.
Armstrong will probably get into this a little bit more too, but there's been promotion from our transportation director to provide some more incentives for drivers, like increasing perfect attendance awards, adding safety bonuses for employees that don't have any type of incidents throughout the year. And so advocating for that to really retain the excellent drivers that she does have and offer that as a recruiting tool as well. But it's been a very challenging last couple of years for her to keep staff and just fill the vacancies that we have. I think currently have at least
If you ever do, they don't show up.
Make it work. I mean, they'll,
Yeah.
again, they have to get everyone out.
I'm all in favor of the safety awards, probably less in favor of the perfect attendance award, because if someone doesn't feel well, they shouldn't be behind the wheel of that bus. So I don't want people to be going, oh, I'm not gonna worry about my migraine today because I'm so tired.
there are 50 employees.
Okay. That's great. But love the safety awards and other recognition when our bus drivers don't get nearly enough credit.
So there's a landscape with the driver scales. When we look at the admin scales, you can see here, start up top there in yellow with our principals, elementary, middle, and high. And when we rank their hourly rate, minimum and maximum across those 10 comparison divisions, we're pretty close to the bottom, both the front and the back end of those minimum and maximum. Bleacher assistant principals, slightly more competitive there. Coordinators would be the most competitive with the minimum salary coming in third and our maximum sixth. Construction directors, seventh and sixth, and then our operation directors, that includes Rosie, Lisa, and the folks who manage those departments. They're really toward the bottom now. And we talked this a couple of years ago. I know that when you look at the number of vehicles in your fleet, the number of employees, the number of facilities, the square footage, that's a complicated calculus too. We talked about that, but they do tremendous work. So I did want to acknowledge that and people as well. But so when you look at that, what the evergreen recommendation was to just add 4% to whatever the across the board increase was. So that would be 7% for all those positions. We'd like to think about being more strategic about it. With our principals and APs, 4% in addition to the 3%, that would come at a cost of a little over $50,000. The other administrative scales, our coordinators and our directors, we would add 2% onto that. So making it an overall increase of 5% of the 3 plus the 2. And that would come at a cost of 45. So bottom line.
Then we would rank on each of these after that?
I think this would bring us closer to the median, just where we're always aiming for. And it's going to be hard to compete with some of the bigger divisions that will take their own principles.
Yeah, how does the enrollment
So
compare?
that comparison group right there, when you break it down by school, I know that we do have, for example, a high school of 800 students. Yes, it's going to be significantly smaller than a high school in Chesterfield, right? But I also like to caution people that haven't been a high school principal in a big division. Our high school, they've got 2 assistant principals. At a big high school, I had 4. At the high school I worked at Cochin High School, we got a bookkeeper, front office person, registrar. The high school I was at, I had an attendant secretary, my own secretary. So it's all relative, I guess. And I think a lot of the functions of leadership for any of our principals are going to be the same no matter how big your school is. I will say too that in Goochland, when I got here, having been a high school principal, I looked at the work that Dr. Collier was doing, I looked at what Brian does. They're more involved in the day-to-day work of that school than I was in the big division. Because in the big division, I've got 50 people above me in that central office that are taking care of all the budgeting and all that. And I never have to touch that. Okay? So I just want to acknowledge that I think it's a lot more complicated than just the number of students in terms of how that job works. Yes.
All the administrative staff at their school.
Yes.
They're giving.
They can divide up as evaluation community. My thoughts on that. So that's where we just wanted to direct our attention toward that and some recommendations. We'd love to hear from you all what you thought about that.
I mean, I agree. I mean, if it brings us to the median on these, I definitely think that's where we should go. We want to keep the people that we have, and we've got some really good people here. So I'd hate to lose them because of, we weren't willing to.
Yeah, and especially our principals are at the phase in their careers where they've got young children and they may be looking to sort of increase their earning potential down the road for obvious reasons, right? I mean, that's going to happen, and sometimes we can keep up with it, sometimes we can't, but we have an amazing group of principals and assistant principals, and the more we can do to keep them, I think that permeates the entire building. It does, and that transition can disrupt everything you're trying to do sometimes.
This is out of 15 districts.
This is out of 10. We couldn't get the salary scales for, there were 4 that we
okay.
have scales for,
Right.
but it says 10 that, there was, those 9 right there plus Louisa.
Okay. Could we see
Yep.
salary scales?
Side of the conditions that really said. knowledge that teachers would want to see we're in, right? But I will say too, that a staff advisory, when I showed them that slide, they all agree, like, we have great principals that support us. They're So those were the recommendations around certain employee groups and salary increases. I have taken per request of the board. I've done a double priority here. You've got the green, which I guess we'll call tier 1, the yellow tier 2, and that pink tier 3. And I've ranked them in order, and I've run this by, talked to our principals today about this, talked to the teachers and the staff advisory, talked to senior leadership, and wave the wand, sure, the resources are infinite, I'll take it all, but I know that we're going to have to make some decisions here. I would rank those core instructional service providers and teachers at the top in our tier 1 with our elementary sped teacher and middle school math. We mentioned before those 2 part-time interventions can be covered with earmarked at-risk funds which you already saw reflected in that early slide with some of the state revenues. 2 additional CT teachers, and with an asterisk that we're doing course selection now, right? So we've got to see what kind of demand we get for a lot of programs we want to grow in robotics and electronic or electricity. So keeping that in the back of our mind to see what comes out of that.
Really electricity or not electricity?
Electricity, yeah, like electrician electricity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Missed that.
Yeah, we're assessing interest in that.
There should be great interest in that.
Yes.
It's the #1 requested course for CTE that we don't have.
Maybe you could do it this age
And then we're gonna, and I'm excited about that. I just want to make sure that we're being responsible about how we allocate the positions we do based on demand and this in concert with
What kind of interventionists are we talking?
our instructional interventionists that I know you all.
Just general?
Work at, yeah, we work in elementary schools,
Okay.
students.
Okay.
Literacy.
Not math, not reading.
Dr. Geyer, would these be, or we?
Hopefully, they would be able to serve both needs. If you all remember, we requested additional full-time folks last year. We got part-time, which was super helpful. But we still are not serving all the students that have literacy needs. And in one of our schools, Goshen Elementary School, we're not servicing students in math at all. They just don't have the capacity for it.
So this would bring us up to where we wanted to be?
Closer.
Okay.
This is bringing us, giving us additional help for the teacher. It used to be that the teacher would handle all of this, but evidently it's not. Now, that last year I had issue because I felt like if our scores are showing that we're doing well, why hire more additional staff? But I knew that because we were on, but I don't think they can help. If we have one group that is making us fall below, I don't even know if the interventionists are allowed to work with that group because you can't double dip, right?
No, I don't think I'm sure that.
Yeah, and it's, Ms. Worsing, you're absolutely right that there's a specific student subgroup, as you all know, based on the December discussion, that identified Goshen Elementary School in that TSI category, but there are multiple other student subgroups that are not meeting grade level standards in performance that just may not have enough students to put them over that small end to have it count. And so I would just say, while we recognize the importance of that federal accountability and all the PR related to that, there are also subgroups that are underperforming that for different reasons just don't put us over that mark. Just like there were subgroups in other schools that were not meeting the benchmark, but those schools weren't identified because they didn't have the requisite small n number to come up as identified.
And I guess what we're saying here is that these interventionists, we have other funds that are coming in.
It's earmarked funds from the state for at-risk intervention. So
as we are doing course selection processes now, is there the potential that some of our CTE programs may fall below the mark? I know there were a couple in previous years that were right at the bubble of whether or not this, we love to offer a complement of different programs, but if we've got, 6 kids that are interested in something, we have to make hard decisions.
I will tell you, the one that I think always kind of wavered on, especially with the difficulty getting staff with heavy equipment. But Bill's has been killing it with heavy equipment, so I have a feeling.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, that's gonna be in good shape. I think about our robotics classroom. I don't anticipate anything.
The one that we've had hanging on for several years is the energy class. So that, if we don't get a decent enrollment, then we're gonna drop that one. It's the old adage, you rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
So, electricity could get a huge enrollment and it could take away from our carpentry program. So, it's
See
give
when
and
the
take.
numbers come back.
Yeah, until we get
When
the
is
course selection back.
When will we have?
February, March,
Yeah.
and I'm anticipating course consideration for the board in February. And that's always contingent, even if you all approve courses that they don't make in terms of student interest, we will offer them.
So how do you feel about track and stack this?
I don't like the CPE standard for, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. So I still think it needs to be up above the part-time interventions.
Or even
I understand.
we got one for.
I think you're gonna get feedback.
Priority 1, right?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I really would like the elementary encore teachers. That's something that we've been looking at for a while, and it would be nice to put that in a tier 1.
I agree.
And is that a 1.5 or?
Yeah, let's go on.
1.6. That's the complement it would take to make our current encore teachers in elementary school, an additional 1.6 would make it a full-time.
We have a .6 teacher that teaches art at Randolph. And we have a .6 music teacher out at Berg. And then Miss Oberacker fills in the gap, and then we have this .2 little music teacher that comes one day a week out at Berg. So there's lots of little pieces that add up to, whatever that would be, 2.4. So to have, one at each school, we'd need an additional one.
So the permanent subs, we talked about that in the secondary one last time. Ms. Schwartz mentioned that. That would be the cost of 2 permanent subs. And the daily rate of a permanent sub, if you were to hire a sub every single day of your hire days, it'd still be cheaper than if you hired a benefited. It would. However, the intangible benefits, I feel, of having the permanent sub, a consistent faculty member, what we call the opportunity cost, right? You're going to pay more, but the benefits.
You're looking at middle and high.
That's yes, but if you had a day where you say it's exam time or something, and one permanent sub is downstream GS, someone else.
With Flux in Richmond, I've heard that
possibly you're gonna have to do a lot more behavior testing and, you may need to pull those three, the two vital ones up higher, just because it's gonna be mandated.
This is a different type of position.
Not familiar with, I don't know what you see.
Mandatory mental health screening.
Okay,
for
I
all
did.
schools.
Someone did-
Yes.
someone did bring that to my attention.
At least once a year.
I think that would be probably more of our, school sites, counselors, mental health counselors.
I think it's a
and,
dedicated person, isn't it?
Yeah, I think. No, it doesn't have to be a dedicated person, they're gonna give dedicated tools and measurements. This is all draft legislation,
I
but
did- I did.
how the division implements it will be under local.
And then what do you do?
But it would require the school boards to do it, or.
It would require the divisions to do it, yes.
It's a shall.
Yeah, the test.
It's a
Yeah, it's a shall,
Yeah,
it's not a may, it's a
And
shall.
if you're
It would be a one
tested,
person, you don't have one person.
And then my question, I guess, sorry to go off the topic here, but with that is, if we were to administer mental health, they do it then. Nothing in that bill that I saw that prescribed anything, so I was.
And it also doesn't have to be implemented until September 2028. They're gonna give the guidance by September 2027, and then you'll have a year to get it in, yeah.
Keep that,
yeah, I'm just saying,
And even if it's not a vision behavior specialist, it's a great example where, yes, we could end up on the other end of the General Assembly and have to create another position, potentially just because of the workload that some of these bills could bring.
So another unfunded mandate. Translation for the public, another unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
I'm curious on the part-time cafeteria monitor at the middle school. Do we think that if we get the permanent subs or some of these, like, is there a way that folks could lean in? The part-time front office support, I'm trying to find a way to not keep being additive to the size of the division.
Just make that duty.
Make it a shared responsibility. Hey, librarian, you've got it. Again, not picking on Lindsay or whoever librarian is, but like make it a shared responsibility, so that we're not constantly one more thing. Volunteers in our community are welcome to submit for background check.
That's a good one. All in, if you were to fund all of these, it would be close to
$1 million.
$10 million. Talking to Stephanie about it before, she's like, well, just be careful with this, with your calculations. So with my back of the napkin math, again, for Spanish teacher, but literally, when we look at what we started with 1.268 million, I know we got a few more slides here. And if you were to pay for $365,000 for the health insurance shared cost, if you were to pay $14,560 for the custodial salary scale increase, $65,000 for the transportation, $97,708 for those admin scale adjustments. If you did 167,867, that was for the stipended positions, which is the next slide here. And I didn't really put these in the priority. These would all be, I say, like, all these would go into your, right? These aren't positions, these are stipends, expanding middle band to full-time. All of those, girls wrestling would cost 167. So to take that, you take all of the requests we've got from staff and their lines, just around materials and supplies, and you subtracted it, we would probably be sitting there with about, $200,000 left before we can touch the position. So, it's, and again, that's definitely warned me that math can definitely fluctuate. But
That was $200,000 left before you did what?
before we touch any of those positions, the $1 million.
So we would have $200,000.
Please don't quote me.
It's okay, I'm just trying to follow the math because I saw we were in a hole of 1.268 million right out of the gate.
No, that's actually a positive number that when you add what we have in savings from the baseline budget that we had at the end, for fiscal year 26. We're starting with some vacancy savings and we're, having lower VRS expenses. And then if you add to that new revenue that we're receiving, we start out with 1.2 million. That's quickly evaporated with the 3% salary increase right off the
That's not even
bat.
count that.
That, a 3% salary increase pretty much just wipes that out.
So we're at 0.
So then if the county funds the 3%, then you start adding in all these other things that, but that is before any positions, we pretty much already exhausted that. I mean,
What is the total bill if you did everything?
Oh, geez. I think,
That's it? No, that's a 5% increase year over year. We have a $44 million budget. You're talking about to do everything would cost incrementally about 5% more than where we were this budget year. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't think that's gonna probably
to your question.
happen.
No,
Yeah, I know,
I just want the numbers.
sure.
And that's kind of what I was doing. I'm just like, all right, what does my check register look like right now? So, yeah.
So you remember when we began the budget process, you came with a storytelling of meetings, which I appreciated. And I said, the story needs to be, hey, not catching our supervisors out when things come to us from Richmond. And then we're back with hat in hand again and again and again because we underestimated needs.
Just being transparent about what it is that we have.
Yeah, and that number may not be palatable in the beginning, but there's rationale behind a lot of it. And I'm not saying we ask for every single thing. I just wanted to size
Absolutely.
the number.
And that's kind of why I was going through this exercise. So,
I love how this is so broken down. This is great.
yeah, and apologize. I took us down that wormhole there with my.
This is great.
But the last few slides are just wanted to be very transparent about some of the other needs that were requested by staff. And we're including now. One thing I want to point your attention to, that I know will generate some discussion. Appomattox Governor's School. And, the conversation I've had, and we kept on there because it was requested, was made. I know that Kids Advisory discussed that at one of the meetings. And, I had this conversation with some team members today. We have such an amazing fine arts program. I don't know what kind of appetite we did have the slots our kids would have for taking a bus to Petersburg. But I'm putting it on there for your awareness. That was the request. So,
That was a request from the Gifted Advisory Committee.
yes, our.
And this would just be the tuition, not the transportation costs. That number would just be the tuition.
If I may.
Yeah.
If I remember the discussion that Dr. Fowler presented, there was some scenario where Powhatan was offering for us to get our kids to Powhatan and they would ride Powhatan's bus to Appomattox.
I hate being the naysayer in the room, but it's very hard to do something like this for 2 students out of 2,600. I appreciate there may be students who want these opportunities. Their families may need to find a way to fund it. But we could be sending kids here, there, and everywhere at some point.
What does Appomattox do?
It's a fine arts. It's like Maggie Walker. It's like Maggie Walker, but it's fine arts.
I think we have a student that did a dance program.
Summer.
Oh, it's summer.
Yeah.
Summer. Right. Yeah.
Is that what's the comma summer there? Tuition fees, comma summer. Is that for the annual and some summer programs?
The summer tuition just went up by like $200, so I just kind of, for sake of space, just lumped it together, but, the majority of that, I think it was 18.2, would be for the, 2 slots at Appomattox.
Was there anything that type of things that they thought that we could cut and not eliminate? That we were paying for to, and that.
T-shirt, oh my gosh.
T-shirt.
In all seriousness, and I know I've talked to you about this, and I know it's not going to be in our division budget conversation right now. I think I would love to be able to just give a reasonable budget line to all
I
our
love that.
principals,
I love
my
that.
division. Then we won't have to worry about it. It's
Yeah.
like, whatever's t-shirts you saw, you know they've been involved with this.
Lump
Approved.
sum.
Yes,
Lump
I'm
sum.
not saying that's not the case now, but I just, we can make it reasonable, so we'll talk about that. That could be
It's
it.
not a bit, it's just.
Some
the
of these
whole-
things could be covered if we cut out some things that we really don't need, we could cover these.
So, there's some operational needs here too. This is more, nuts and bolts, janitorial supply. Lines that you see in the budget, you see some of that there with the staff prices as well.
And that's a net increase on Bayport?
Bayport typically goes up 5% per year,
Yeah, I
so
think
that would be the increase.
Increased to 5%, so. For the predicted of 5%.
Not much we can do. And then some of the capital needs, and this was already really captured, I think, last year in the budget, in the operating budget. So we highlighted it separately just to make sure it was clear that we would still include some of these.
We absorbed that $500,000 worth of capital costs that was moved from the CIP. I'll just point out, we took out the bus last year to make our numbers work, and so this is adding that back. So even though we had that $500,000 in there, it didn't quite, accommodate all of the needs for our, capital CIP items that had previously been funded there. And, I think that we could certainly look at any of these. I mean, some of them probably don't. The fire panel replacement is something that's definitely needed. But, we could perhaps talk about some of the other ones. School-wide painting was requested at $100,000, and Dr. Armstrong and I brought that back down to kind of keep this number in that $500,000 range. And it does capture what Mr. Forbes has, requested in terms of other projects that need to be prioritized.
We did scrub this with our principals and budget leaders, and every time we meet with them, what are some things to make look at? Some of those items include, your textbook adoptions. We had a master schedule consultant who would come in at one time and kind of help, because that's a pretty technical process. We worked that. 6th and 9th grade orientation lunch, which was a separate event, is now incorporated in the school day. You can do some Maggie Walker slots. There's some savings in the enrollment, summer school, stipends and materials, suggested supplies, admin. Drips and drabs. You're able, there's all these Brailleisms. You're able to find these.
What do you have to do with that with the administration expenses? What would you not get to do?
I don't think it would affect really our operations on a daily basis. I think, and Matt, you may know a little bit, maybe not, that some of the expenses we have around our streaming, I think.
I know a little bit. It doesn't come out of any budget line tied to me, but I believe that we pay the county, like we're piggybacking, so they pay the big chunk of the bill, and then we pay a little bit part of that. It's not cheap. I do know that.
I think that the actual product that they use, they changed, and so the cost of that did significantly decrease from what we had been doing. So that's the savings there. We're using less of our public relations consultant, doing a lot more of that in-house. We've stopped printing the annual community report, so that's online now. And then we only have we have fewer audit fees every other year, just because we're only required to do like our post-retirement benefits audit every other year. So that captures, it's not really, it's definitely savings, not all sacrifices. I guess.
It's not
Right.
impacting anything.
No,
that's-
Ms. Worsing?
Because I think public relations is a big thing, so,
Yes.
and streaming definitely.
The testing supplies and software, is that like streamlining, like, are there any programs or apps that we pay for on the iPads for the younger students or even the older ones that we really don't need or don't utilize as much that we can get rid of?
We go
And
through,
just, I mean, I know it's probably smaller amounts, but it could go to something else that we need to.
we go through that every year, so some of that is reflected already.
I will say that, for that particular line, it relates to, fewer students taking the PSAT test. And then, we are guaranteed a rate with the company that does the MAP, testing and assessments. And, we were provided a lower rate, kind of a guaranteed rate for next year, so.
Matt and I, we talked about this, inventorying all of those apps that we have in sourcing, and, are there places where we could realize some savings, so that's almost one more.
I remember, Stephanie, you did over $20,000 in fees last year. You saved us by getting rid and moving things around. I
Yeah.
just remember I really was impressed with that.
I think, we always try to look and see
Yeah.
any redundancy. I think some of our, software expenses are there in our textbook fund because they are digital subscriptions. And so when I say consolidate resources up there, that's kind of where we might have, stopped using certain, subscriptions.
Well, really just our roadmap for the rest of this process, weather permitting, we'll get back together next Tuesday and I'll present a budget to you all February 3rd. We will have our regular meeting, public hearing on the 10th, and then the So I had to go back any slides.
Now, with the meeting next week, Tuesday, if the governor presents our
State of emergency.
state of emergency, we can do it virtual if someone sets it up.
So we'll keep AI with that this morning. Because what it's going to do, they solve the whole cost of emergency. Power. And then we discover about power, never have power. What I'm hearing is this is not going to be an icy snow, it's going to be a fluffy snow. So maybe
I heard it's gonna start out that way, but then it might shift in.
Who cares? Really cares. It's gonna happen.
Like,
1 to 2 feet.
It's great.
any other questions?
I just, and this is just ignorance on my part and just trying to put all this in perspective is, would we consider a 4% for our teachers? And would we consider a 4% with them picking up health increases?
Like turning the knobs on your
Yes.
raising?
Is that something that would even be in our realm of financial?
I think the cost of an additional percent for a across the board raise
Would be huge.
May be prohibitive.
Okay,
However,
just trying to understand.
look, it all depends on the county transfer, right? But I think that may be more than
We can do.
a little too rich for a little bit.
Yeah, you can kind of think of it as, it's more of the operating fund. If you kind of take out the federal grant employees and cafeteria fund.
Right.
It's gonna cost us somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.1 to 1.2 million. So if you divided that by 3,
Right.
Yeah. That's gonna give you how much more it's gonna cost to do an additional 1%. And that's on it, yeah. So,
Have we, as far as the weapons detection, is that something that we're thinking about for the next year's budget? Or,
So,
because I know that I saw weapons detection staffing
right,
amount in there,
and
but I thought that might be something that we have on.
then I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm sorry I skipped over that. I think considering the timing of even the purchase of the equipment, we're being very deliberate about this. We're going to convene the Safe Schools Task Force. And I would say we may not need to consider this as part of our FY27 operation budget. The the time's gonna be required to roll this all out, to get the equipment, to train people, to staff it. So, but I'm leaving it up there for now,
Okay.
but I think that's a good one.
Was that supposed to be paid for by grants?
No, the actual equipment and those columns we requested that out of our FY '26 CIP. And I know that,
But there was grant money available, if it was filed.
I think we did apply for a grant, I don't know if we got it, but Jen did that, so she's back.
Down and it impacts the teacher. And I don't want to add, I think that's a thing that could dissuade somebody from picking a county is if they are all the extra demands that are put on them because of decisions that are made here. So that, like the cafeteria monitor, even though it seems like such a little thing, but requiring teachers to have to then carry another duty. And
So librarians and administrators, yes, I didn't say.
well, the
teachers.
librarian, well, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put another burden on a
Right.
teacher either.
Well, but the librarian too, they teach classes and have to curate the whole library. They have a busy job too. So just a thought, because I do work in the school system too. And you do see some of the decisions made to, oh, we can save here or there. And then the burden then lies upon the teacher. And that is, yeah, and that's one reason why some teachers leave is because they feel like they're putting in so much more than just teaching children.
Historically, I think we had 2 cafeteria monitors at the middle school, and it was bartered, at one point by a previous administration for something else, that they were willing to give those up for. So the current principal would like that reinstated, at least one, because, it is managing, that population of students. It can be challenging.
It's a very challenging job. But I like that Bird Elementary School has the dads program. And I think having males, dads walking around, actually having conversations with, being able to go through the background check. I think it's just a wonderful opportunity to have our community be able to help out and be in those positions.
Yeah, that's what made this morning, and I welcome the guests who working through an organization now to try to get more dads in schools. It's not watchdogs, but they have a similar goal. And I mentioned to our principals that, working with the board into her, that there's a lot of interest in growing that, especially for, and
How much time would the cafeteria monitor be in school?
Oh,
Would be in
It's 2.5 hours a day, just based on the individual school's lunch schedule, but that's what they're budgeted for.
and just so marching orders for next week's workshop, give another option on health insurance premium sharing, so 2/3.
I can do that.
We got it. And then look at the scale of sort leadership. Yeah, after.
I mean, just to fill in their day, I mean, like, what do they do? Maybe they go to other jobs after they've been,
We have had drivers who work in cafeterias.
yeah.
Or permanent subs, because they would have.
They also may have to teach class during lunches.
What I'm hearing is, I mean, again, that is not a high priced item. It sounds like there might be, we can get a little creative with the cafeteria monitor, maybe we can just go
maybe an incentive for somebody to take a few bucks. Gives them data I'm wrong.
Anything else? Great.
Other ask, I love the precise dollar value. Can we show where it's applicable percent of change? Like, the one thing, like on the insurance was really cool, but I was doing the math in my head to see, okay, Goochland's paying a third, somebody else is paying 40%, you get the idea. So that way I can compare it on a percentage basis versus on a dollar to
The total
dollar.
premium is this, the total premium here is that, and then this year is different, yeah.
It just, the dollars are interesting, but the percentage differences are really what we're chasing. Because that's kind of like the ranking on the other scales. And then we had touched on, Ms. Weiss, we had talked about there may be some opportunities for bookkeeping software consolidation. We talked about the online payments thing being one example, and then there's another one for fundraising and so forth. Don't know where that conversation may land. But I did see, I think it was a $20,000 line item for the maintenance work order system software.
So, I'll speak to that if it's okay. So in working with our owners rep, with MVP, Ryan Waltrip, we continue to have weekly meetings with him as we're trying to get this over the finish line, some of the warranty and punch list items with Shockey. And one of the things that he's really emphasized is the need to, with a new school especially, is to have some type of way to track maintenance on all the equipment in that school. Otherwise, a lot of times if you're not keeping up with those recommended warranty, and requirements, then you void your warranty and you run out your equipment, runs down, just like, with your home, if you're not keeping up with things. So he provided Mr. Forbes with a couple of different options, some on the very expensive end and some on a little less expensive. So this was, I believe, one that was kind of in the middle. And correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but I feel like maybe technology could tap into this work order program as well to track some of
Yeah,
their.
we would use it in lieu of our current help desk software, which
Right.
this
So
is
it-
sort of inventory and ticket management.
Potential in there with Fox.
Happy Fox.
That's the name of the $20,000 program.
That's the name of the one we use now.
Technology-based help
It's really
desk.
cute.
So, again, his recommendation is just for us to be able to track these things a little bit better. And it can also pull in, our other facilities as well. But with a new school, you really just want to optimize, this brand new school and make sure that it's functioning the way it should. And, it's just much more modern equipment. And that sort of thing that needs to be kept up with. So probably more than you wanted to.
No, actually, that context is very helpful, especially hearing that if we were to adopt that particular software, we have abandonment somewhere else. So again, a little bit of offsetting of the cost there.
This isn't a maintenance work order system like sure.
That's what I didn't know. When I hear it's for warranty items of $200,000 switch gears, then I have, or $1 million switch gears, or whatever that thing ended up costing, then I have a little more, maybe we should do that. We talked briefly last week about maybe putting in a placeholder for additional employment law /
Yes, thank you, collective bargaining.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sorry, and I reached out to the partner to get us.
Very good.
So, yeah.
I just want to be mindful that that could become a reality, and we're going to need additional staff, whether that's outsourced legal services or in-house
Sure.
expertise.
I have seen a couple of articles, again, all of this is still just very much, up in the air, but that it's not likely to have a huge impact on us for the upcoming school year. But we'll see what happens. So we're keeping the ears to the ground.
Great. Thank you.
comments?
Thank you so much.
Anything from y'all? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
It has been moved in by Michelle Maxwell and seconded by Karen Wilson to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Hearing that is, all those who wish to adjourn at this point, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. We are now adjourned until next Tuesday, hopefully, January the 27th, 5:30 p.m. in room 250 of the administration building for the budget workshop.
Can I have a second?